the day they walk, you'll never get that day back again.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of
Put your phone down.
Yeah, I can hear myself to teenagers. Just put your phone down.
I always love telling people the story about how we met.
How we met.
You do everything and you've seen so many diverse families.
Absolutely. When I do grandparent classes, they're like, well, it hasn't changed. And I'm like, well, no, it has changed. But the baby hasn't changed.
Well, that was such a beautiful handover and tag team with Jen leaving and obviously having you here, Chris. Now, Chris Minogue is a Mothercraft nurse. She has been doing it for decades and decades and decades.
About that many decades.
And I know, Chris, some people go, oh my gosh, what on earth is a Mothercraft nurse?
Yeah.
But, you know, it really is about supporting parents everywhere from bringing their babies home right through those, you know,
Absolutely.
first years.
So when I first started as a Mothercraft nurse, it was very hospital-based and we worked in a hospital setting and a community setting. I think we're more now as parent educators
Yes.
is probably more what we're talking about is, you know, how these transitions happen when you have a child and how can we be supported through all those transitions,
Yes.
whether it's a newborn baby or a child going off to school. We work in
Absolutely.
all of that space.
Yes, and I always love telling people the story about how we met.
How we met.
So, you know, Chris and I, a decade ago, my
Yep.
eldest is 10, I remember having a beautiful friend, Simone, who said, here's this woman's number and you must contact her. She is worth her weight in gold.
Oh,
and I was like, yeah, that's what she said about you, Chris, and I tell you. But it was me being a bit stubborn in those first 5 months going, you know what, I'm going to be a go with the flow mum.
Yeah.
You know, I know what I'm doing here. And then I'll never forget when it became really hard to settle her for sleep. And I was like, oh, okay, there is a bit of a method to this madness. I'm going to call in Chris. And Sabir he was only telling someone yesterday actually that you are one of the reasons Kindred evolves and exists today.
wasn't it?
It was. I remember meeting you and you gave me this little nugget of advice and I was like, oh my God, that's a game changer. More people need to know about this. Chris, how do we make this happen? So I think me feeling so fortunate to have someone like you in my corner, in part of my village, you might call it, supporting me through a very vulnerable time, I knew that there was a lot of people that didn't have access to people like you.
And that's because the world had changed. The world had changed. The idea that your mother was down the street and your sister was across the road with her children has really changed.
Yes.
So the way we get information about this journey into parenting, that started changing. And for me, who's watched it over many decades, I can see those changes and I can see the difficulty even though the baby hasn't changed.
Yes.
The baby's needs are exactly the same. I think the world around us has changed and the expectations have changed.
Yes.
And certainly when I do grandparent classes, they're like, well, it hasn't changed. And I'm like, well, no, it has changed. But the baby hasn't changed. And I
Yes.
think in a world, a lot of information, that gets lost.
Yes.
That the baby hasn't changed.
The baby's needs have not changed.
Have not changed.
Now, the way I love to start off every chat in this podcast is asking people things nobody tells you. And for you, you obviously do the hospital sessions.
Yeah, that's right. I do from antenatal right through.
Yeah.
So a lot of education.
A lot of education and a lot of people you're helping, which is so
Yeah.
nice to see that impact, and also through your private business
Yeah.
as well. What is that one? I'm going to hit you with I know it's a
What's
big
that one
question.
thing?
What's that one thing that you find yourself going back to just in parenthood, you know, that you say to people?
So often I say to people, especially those early months, you know, when it's really raw and you're really tired, the first thing I would say to the parent is that you need to be kind to yourself. In a world where they tell you all the time you're either doing it right or doing it wrong,
Yep.
you need to be kind to yourself.
Yes.
That the baby is more simplistic than you give it credit for.
Yes.
But the consistency is how the baby develops.
Yes.
So regardless, whether it's feeding, sleeping, rhythms, going back to work, it doesn't matter. But be kind to yourself. Now, be kind to yourself is very different to I need to do a yoga class and the baby is the weight. So, you know, it gets skewed. The information we get is skewed. So how do we pick out the bits that support us to be the best parent we can be?
Yes.
And how do we forage through that and let go? And I think the only
Yes.
way you can do that is to have a realistic framework that's appropriate to your baby's age.
Yes. And
So that
that's a good
you
point.
can develop to be the best parent you are within that framework that's true to all babies,
Absolutely.
regardless of which stage we're talking through.
And I think that's the thing that I learnt very quickly with you. And
Yeah.
the thing was that, you know, babies evolve, they develop, they don't
Yeah.
regress.
They never regress.
But it's like the sleeping thing, right? Because obviously you're the baby
absolutely.
whisperer. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Chris has worked with every celebrity known to man. She's brought babies home. She's done surrogacy.
And I work for the humble person who just is
And
struggling.
you do everything,
Yeah.
and you've seen so many diverse families.
Absolutely.
But it's just that really, I mean, it's a very level playing field once you talk
absolutely.
about parenthood, because the minute you pull poo out of the bath, you know
You're a parent.
you're a parent. But it was really this idea that, yes, you know, babies do have this, you know, these awake windows. That was the thing that got me. I was like, hang on, what do you mean?
So when your little ones were little, we talked about awake windows, and we still talk about awake windows, and then everyone gets surprised when they go, oh, there's an awake window.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, there's this rapid changing period.
Yes.
So it feels like you're in that early stage for a long time. And then
Yes.
suddenly the baby goes bang, 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 and develops really quickly.
Yeah.
And that happens from about the 3rd to about the 9th month. There's constant rapid changing.
Yes.
The biggest change in the early months is more around sleep and alertness and awareness and just opening their eyes more and being more.
Yes.
But then from the 3-4 months, which is what most people would think is a regression,
yes.
that baby's just, you know,
powering through
it's all
milestones.
linking together really quickly. And then it slows down a little bit because they do lots with their gross motor. And I think when you don't know that, that can overwhelm you because you think you were doing it one way and suddenly the one way isn't working anymore.
Exactly.
But actually it can be just a tweak and it really works. So I know when I work with my parents, not only do I tell them about what's happening now, but I give them an idea of what's going to happen.
That's what I loved about
So
your stuff.
that you know the change is coming. So when you see
Yes.
the change, you don't think that something's gone wrong. You actually just the baby's moving to this next phase or stage.
And you think of it as an evolution and
absolutely.
progression versus a
So
regression.
regression.
But that rapid change again, and I go back to awake windows and
Yeah,
cycles
that's
because
right.
for me, I'm like, I wish I knew that, you know, babies will literally just feed and sleep, but that's about as much as
Yep,
they can handle. But then at those stages or those intervals you talk about where that becomes a little bit more.
Yeah, so it becomes a little bit more by 6 weeks.
Yes.
So 6 weeks down the track, you're just getting you together.
Yes.
You're recovering, you're getting your feet on the floor, you feel like you can get out. The pram isn't going to fall apart if you don't put it together again. So, and now our baby's making this tiny, tiny little change. And then 9 weeks, it seems more obvious. And 12 weeks, wow, it's in front of me.
Yes.
And so it's like the baby says to you, if you just keep it consistent and in those first few weeks, you'll get to know me. And now when I teach at the hospital level, so antenatal, then the hospital level,
Yes.
I teach it as a pause. So if our baby's doing something and we're a bit overwhelmed, is to pause. So
love
for
that.
instance, the most common would be sleep because there's a lot of sleep in my life. So this baby's crying and Jen's spoken about why the baby cries, but this baby's crying and in that haze of overtiredness, you know, what do you do?
Yeah.
And now I couldn't work out how to teach people what I know in my head.
Yeah.
So then I just say to them, why don't you just pick them up and pause?
Yes.
And let the baby have a moment. No, I don't mean have a moment that they need to cry, but that moment where you pause, and this is the very young baby, and it's hungry, well, it's obviously going to start eating you. So regardless of what the book said or who said what, that baby is telling you they're hungry.
Yes, and you will see it.
Yeah. So that pause, I think, is allowing the parents not to rush into things.
Not to be reactive, not to
And-
constantly
and-
go, fix, I need to fix it.
And it's a bit like a toddler. So in the toddler years, we do the wait and watch.
Yes.
So you think the toddler's going to fall over and hurt itself. But actually, if you wait and just hover near it, it'll be okay.
Yes.
Same with the toddler sleep. They sit up, they lay down, they stand up, they lay down, they sit up. Just wait.
Yes.
Wait and that pause. Now, in a newborn, the pause is like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, because they're very obvious at teaching you things.
Yes.
But in the toddler, you might have to pause a little longer, give a little more, support them a little bit more.
Yes.
And that's where the language gets skewed, though, because people say, "Oh no, that's it's controlled crying." We're not.
No, actually, can I say, and this is a whole other thing we will talk about, but I remember very clearly one of the very first times I met you, and when I was living in my terrace house.
Yeah, in that tiny little terrace house.
Little terrace house, too many stairs, too many levels.
Many stairs for a baby. Straight upstairs.
Oh my gosh, Anyway, we're not there anymore. But I remember we were sitting at the table and you were explaining. You had I think I've still kept some of them. The
little
pieces of paper, and you were mapping out what it looks like now, what it's going to look like next. And I'll never forget. I heard this noise. Yeah. And it was Ishk. And again, my instinct was sleep deprived. I want to fix it. I need to get up.
I need to stop it.
And you just looked at me and you said, just wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I waited a minute. And she stopped. Yeah. And it wasn't controlled crying.
No.
It wasn't her escalating. It literally was her grizzling and making noise in her sleep as babies do. And I was wanting to jump up there and quickly fix it, which might have disrupted her sleep.
We're the fix-it group. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but it's a pause. That wait a minute is a pause.
Yeah.
It's not a intentional.
Yes.
So intentional is, I don't care what you're doing, you're going to for this length of time, whether that's for anything in parenting.
Yep.
It's just a pause.
Yes.
And it's giving that relationship between the language, of which they don't have verbal language, a chance for you two to connect.
And to communicate that in different ways.
It. Yeah, that's right. Now, that's what I start with teaching them, the pause and to be kind to yourself. You know, in a world that's really busy, being kind to yourself is really important.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get a gold star for the first week of them sleeping through the night, because you don't get many gold stars in parenting, do you?
Do you know what? It's funny you say that. I only said to my nanny last night, it was a bit crazy. Sabir and I were busy. We were working. The kids were there. And I said to her, I always remind her and I say, we're not winning any awards today. You are going to keep them safe. You're going to feed them and you're going to love them like you do, because she does.
All we need.
And that's all we're aiming for today. And I feel like that just takes the pressure off. And I can say that now 10 years into parenthood, but I think I would never have been able to say that the first time around. So this is probably where someone like myself can point that out. So, you know, I work with lots of parents, especially in that 3 to 9 month where, you know, sleep and child behaviour is changing really rapidly. And then I'll say to them, so what happened last night? And they said, they only woke once, but they were awake for an hour. And I said, that's great. Because remember last week they were waking 3 times for 3 hours. So sometimes we have to see the tiny step of improvement and be grateful that it's moving forward. And that we're not back where we were. So all of these, other than the actual process of pat, rock, cuddle, whatever it is that we're doing, it's these tiny little things that you have to see in children. You have to see that the day they walk, you'll never get that day back again. So you have to sort of put your phone down.
I can hear myself to teenagers, just put your phone down. But now I do it as an example in the antenatal class, and I get them to hold the dolls, and then I say, now open your phone and open an app. And I say to them, and they're all busy doing that. And then I say, what are you not doing? And they look around and it takes a few minutes, because remember they don't have a baby yet. And then they go, oh, we're not looking at the baby. And I say, looking is the connection, isn't it? It's the attachment. It's the, oh, you are feeding well, and it can be a bottle, it's a breast, doesn't matter how they get fed. But it's this, you know, just slow it down. Slow it down. But you do need a framework to go, we are doing well, and that might look different to the lady next door. But we are doing well in what we're doing, and I'm meeting my baby's needs, and that's where the framework comes.
And do you know what? That's something you carry on through parenthood.
Like, absolutely.
I always do that. I take stock. I go, and I think that's how I protect my mental health.
You know, because otherwise you'd be in a puddle on the floor.
Oh my gosh, I would. And, you know, I'm so grateful to have had you in my corner, because I have had 3 kids with genetic conditions, additional needs. My journey, that's a whole other podcast to talk about that.
Could be a whole podcast in itself.
But some days I have literally, and I had 3 under 3.5. So I've had to have those days where I take stock and I go.
You have to
check in. And even if it's the most basic, silly thing, I take check of, I did this, and this today. And I just recognise the things that I achieved today, and they might be very basic, but I think that really helped me not go, oh, I didn't get to leave the house today.
That's right.
And
so People are worried about not leaving the house, whereas I'm not worried about you not leaving the house.
Yes, and I love
what's
that in a
going
newborn.
on. It's what's going on for you.
Yes.
You know, so it is very different. And we need to recognise that it is very different.
Yes.
And that their modelling isn't as acute as, say, my mother's. So when
Yeah.
my mum had babies, her sister wasn't very far away. And,
Yeah.
you know, the lady next door had 3 children and my mum had 4 children. So there was more community. What I feel
Yes.
is more community.
Community.
I think you have to go and find your community now.
Yes, you do actually.
do.
And I found that really, because you know we talk a lot when we
Yeah.
catch up about mothers groups. I adore my mothers group. I
Yeah.
can share photos of, you know, when I first sat them on
Yeah.
a couch and presented the idea of kindred, and they supported me since then.
Yeah.
But it was them that, like that, they were the people that I had to make friends with for the first time since high school, which
Absolutely.
was weird.
And you're all vulnerable.
Also vulnerable, like
Yeah.
it's all messy in those
Yeah,
very
that's
early
right.
weeks. But what I love, what you've said to me in the past, is because again, it depends with the people that you
Yeah.
get, and it works for some and not for others. But to not lose hope and sight of that search for who that person is.
That's right.
Could be one neighbour, could
be
be
one-
an expert like you. I had you
Yep,
in my corner.
Absolutely. It could be the lady across the road whose children are a bit older.
Yep.
But just making a connection with
Yes.
someone. It could be a health visitor at the
Yeah.
early childhood centre.
Yep.
But making that connection.
Being open to it.
And when I was speaking to my mum, she didn't really have to do that because she saw it in her community all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So it is a different world from our parents' generation.
Absolutely. And we want to do it all ourselves. Like
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I want to do
Yeah.
it very much. I could do
You
this.
want to do it all yourself and you're going to do it perfectly and that's not the reality.
No, and I actually remember a very good example of this is when when Ish started school, kindy, and you know she had a lot going on. She's got ADHD, she's autistic, she's got all sorts of things happening, and I never felt that I could leave her with anyone. And I thought, gosh, as she gets older, how on earth am I going to leave her for a play date? And I'll never forget that feeling of finally surrendering to this one mum who I knew was very capable, who she said, "It's fine, like I've got her."
She's okay.
Oh my gosh, it was so liberating. It was like a shed of weight off me going,
You
oh
didn't
my
have to
God,
carry
this is
it
what
all.
it feels like to have
Yeah.
someone that can actually support me.
You didn't have
and-
to carry it all.
Yeah.
And that is in that letting go period.
Yep.
And you can imagine a mum who's feeling very vulnerable, or a parent, doesn't even have to be the mother, but a parent that's feeling very vulnerable, and then they're going to trust someone
Yes.
to help them through that
Yes.
stage. And I think when clients say to me, I've got my friend, but she won't come and get help, not necessarily from me, but just in general. And I think they probably feel very vulnerable
Yes.
and they're not there to let that happen then.
Yes.
But they will. Somewhere down the line, they will.
At some
They'll
point-
find that person, that thing that will allow
A
them.
safe person that will allow them
Yeah.
to open up. And
That's exactly right,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's important in parenting. And I think sometimes you don't realise it till you can reflect 10 years later
well, yes.
that things were there and that you had to make that brave step to say, this part isn't working for me.
Yes.
And that could be a mum who, you know, has, you know, done whatever for her child in terms of sleep in the early months, and then realise that it's not working for them,
Yeah.
and that things have to change.
Yes.
And it has to change for lots of different reasons. They're really brave to take that step and say, this isn't working for us.
Yes.
We're open to what needs to be done, and these are the steps that we'd like to do it in. And I think as professionals, we have to hear that and we have to support the parents in that journey. So I think some people think that the only answer to sleep issues is control crying, but it's not.
Oh my gosh, the amount of times I
It
wanted
is
to jump
not
onto
that.
Facebook posts and
Yeah,
educate
you
people.
want
and
it.
say, yeah, I'm like, this
I
is
have to put my
not.
phone down a lot.
I can
you know.
imagine. And I
Yeah.
think that's the really sad thing. And it's funny you say, yes, 10 years in, but that's why obviously I feel now
Yeah.
that I can do a Things Nobody Tells You About
Absolutely.
Parenthood podcast and book, because it takes about a decade of
parenting.
experience and parenting to at least go through each of those stages and be able to reflect in that way.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in the depths of it, it's just changing so rapidly.
And also the next 10 years are are very different for you.
Yeah.
You're going to have teenagers that are going into young adults. So it is
Yes.
very different to that first 10 years.
Yes.
So it is a good time to reflect.
I think so. And I think, that this is where this idea of, God, I wish I knew that.
Yeah.
And like you just say, I talk about a lot, and I just mentioned it with Jen because I'm writing it actually in the book, is about you have permission to change and evolve. Because
Absolutely.
I was such a different parent in the beginning. And
Yeah.
I think if we think that we have to fit a certain type or style,
Fit into a certain box.
Yeah, it's not
And
how it is. It's
yes.
taking your experience, it's learning, it's you evolving as a parent.
Yeah.
Your baby's developing and evolving, but so are you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're not the person you were 10 years ago.
Yes.
And nor is anybody else.
No.
But going into the journey of parenting, I think, if you don't have good modelling in front of you, you've got to tippy-toe through that.
Yes.
But the baby goes, no, I'm still going to develop my way.
Yes.
And that's where it can, be really overwhelming.
Yes.
Really overwhelming.
And this is why I think education, and that's one of the things I felt very passionately about
absolutely.
in the beginning. Let's just help people understand what to expect, not unlike what you do when you write your rhythms and whatever, but just in general, knowing what's coming up and that it can look different and it can be, it just gives you permission to just kind of go, okay, like I can surrender to the fact that I'm never going to get it right.
Absolutely.
When I nail this one thing, I love it when, and I really hate saying this, but I do say, I was saying to Jen, they say, I've got a good baby. And it's like, it's so different. There is no good or bad babies.
No.
They're doing what they need to do to get their needs met. And, for me, the newborn stage, I mean, you just telling me, I think it was 6 weeks, wasn't it? Where
6
the light
weeks.
and sound, all of a sudden, they'll be more alert. And
Yep.
they'll need
6 weeks, those little picky-boo eyes will open and they're looking all over the world.
can't make them sleep anywhere around that age.
But then they pick up their phone and I even get frustrated with this, and then someone's put on there, my baby slept through at 12 weeks. And I thought, don't do that.
Yes.
Because what is sleeping through? But you've put that expectation that
Yes.
all babies can sleep
Yes.
through at 12 weeks.
And then other parents think that they're doing something wrong, because I do see
Absolutely.
newborn parents thinking that they need to know, have their baby sleeping, that's the goal. And
Yeah.
actually,
they're so fixated, but little babies don't sleep for long periods of time.
Yeah.
They're not wired that way
No.
to do it.
and if you actually, and I really, and I'm going to sound like saying this makes me feel a bit uncomfortable that I'm making people go, if you didn't love it, that is absolutely fine. But I actually loved that when I recognised what that sleep would look like.
Yeah.
In the
And you
cycles or
accepted
whatever.
it.
I surrendered, I accepted it. I slept when I could, not just when the baby sleeps. I kind of just went in that rhythm and flow and just evolved. I feel like that was so much more enjoyable than having this expectation of the goal being sleeping
he
through.
should sleep this length of time or that length of time. There's definitely age-appropriate sleep patterns, and I think we need to
Can you tell
know
us?
age-appropriate
How long
sleep
do we
patterns.
have? In a nutshell, when you tell your people in the hospital, can you tell us a little?
Every baby is differently, and sleep matures with age. I think that's the first thing you've got to understand. But sleep is very much driven by cues and rhythm.
Yep.
And adults do exactly the same. So how I explain this in the antenatal stage, because how do you tell someone who hasn't had a baby what it's going to be like when you have a baby?
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
so
It's-
foreign.
yeah, yeah.
So I say to them, so where do you sleep? And they say, in a bed. And I say, and how often do you go to that bed to sleep? And they go, all the time. And I go, that's right. All the
Yes.
time you go there.
Yeah.
And then I say to them, so what's the environment like? And they say dark and, whatever they say. And I say, and it's like that all the time. Yeah. But what happens when you go to a hotel? They say, it takes a bit longer. You have to work out where you're going to sleep in the bed.
Yes.
That's right. So you give yourself a bit longer to try and work that out. So if you just relate that to baby sleep,
Yeah.
you pretty much got it.
It's so true, isn't it? It's the conditions
absolutely.
or the environment.
It's the environment. It's the age.
Yeah.
It's the awake windows to help put them in the best place for it.
Yes.
And then if you did not worry about the nights, their sleep would just start maturing because they're well rested. And I think in those very early weeks, we need to talk about babies that are well fed and well rested.
Okay.
Not babies that are, only breastfed or only bottle fed, but they're just well fed.
Well fed. Yes.
Well fed. And then they're well rested.
Yep.
So if they're well
sleep
fed.
induces sleep, right?
That's
Like
right.
it's-
So the
because-
more sleep you get, well, the more sleep they get, the more maturity of the sleep is, so the better the sleep is.
Right, yeah.
Then they're going to, just when you feel confident, they're going to go into this phase from about 3 months onwards where they're really alert, awake and aware.
Yep.
So they see the changes. They see the changes in our expression. So if we're having a bit of a down day, often the babies look a bit down. And if we're having a happy and gayful day, the babies are all engaged in it.
No wonder my child's ADHD like me.
You're very
We're always
engaged.
on the go.
You're always moving. But, they take the cues from us. So they're looking at us for the cues. So if I understand when the baby looks tired and is tired, so that's your awake windows, give you a variation on that.
Yep.
Then I need to give them the same cues I would expect.
Yep.
So I expect my room to be cozy. I expect to be warm.
Yep.
I expect to be calm, quiet, dim or dark. Depends on
Yep.
a nap in the day and a sleep at night.
Yep.
And then I repeat that as an adult. So I've recently travelled, and every hotel we went into, the first thing we thought was, do those blinds shut so that we can get a decent sleep?
Yeah.
So why do we not think a baby wouldn't need that? And I think that comes back to the modelling.
Yes.
So the modelling in our parents' time was that we were a mother and we were at home, right?
Yeah.
And we went out and did the shopping and we came home. We took the kids to the park and we came home.
Yeah.
It's pretty much our life.
Yeah.
But our parents today lead a different life. And it sort of says, because of the contact on phones and internets, that you can be anywhere and everywhere and your baby will blossom. But the baby doesn't. They struggle with the overtiredness.
Yes.
And
they're passed around,
they're
moving,
moving around.
stimulation.
I need. So I say if the conversation starts with I need, we're in trouble.
Yes. Yes.
So if it starts with I need, unless you were probably saying, I have to go, but usually you'd say, I have to go back to work and this is how many days I have to go back to work.
Or I have to go and check in with the health nurse or get your immunisations.
But when it starts with I need, I think we've missed the point of the baby being front and centre.
Yes.
Not first, but front and centre.
Yes, love that.
So your children are front and centre. You, in your mind, you go, this is my work day, this is what this child needs, this is what that child needs. And at any given day, it's different.
Yes. Yep.
So that's putting it
I have
front
a
and
spreadsheet
centre.
for that, Chris.
Yeah, she does. Front and centre. And so I can still go on a holiday, but I need to put the baby front and centre.
Yes.
So if I'm going to do a European trip, I can't shift around every second day with a baby because all of those cues will shift too fast.
Yes.
But I can do it every week. So if
Yeah.
we're going for 3 weeks, then we can go to 2 or 3 different places within that. So it's
Being
putting the baby
really-
front and centre, not putting the child first. Do you see how they're two different things?
You know what, Chris? I just had a flashback.
Yeah.
6-month-old-ish with my firstborn, and I went to Italy.
Yes,
And
that's
you basically
right.
planned our trip because
Yes.
the itinerary was based on
So
all of your
around
tips,
what-
without a joke, for everything from
When to travel.
when to put in a carrier to transition
Yeah.
on the plane, to feed on takeoff, to keep hydrated throughout the flight, what conditions to sleep in once I got there,
Yeah.
how to manage the
How to
movement
write
between
the
places.
day.
I'm not going to lie, there is a photo of the amount of luggage I took that first time.
Yeah, well, that was her first time.
My sister is still traumatized. I'm like, why don't you come to Italy with us? And then she saw all the bags and she's like, holy moly.
Yeah, you can pack for a child. That's another podcast. How to travel with children.
But you are just parenting in a different location.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to do a travel section in this
because
podcast.
you're only moving house.
Yes.
You're not, they aren't on holidays till they're 3. So it's a 2.5 or a 3-year-old, they're on holidays.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter if you push them a little bit here and
Yeah.
a little bit there. You try and push a 9-month-old and they're just going to make you pay for it for the rest of the day.
Exactly.
But you can do it. All
Yeah.
those years of travelling with families, you can do it. But you need to put the child
have a plan.
front and first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Expecting them to
we're
just
going
fit
up
in.
Kilimanjaro and I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah.
strap you to my back and
Yeah.
away we go.
And expect them to,
Now, I do believe that there's also different parenting styles.
Yes.
So we are talking to like people.
So interesting. I just
Yeah.
spoke about parenting styles. And how, it's
I
like,
think you have to be, as well as being kind to yourself, you have to be the person you are.
yep.
As in a parenting.
Yep.
I know this has got skewed off the sleep bit, but you have to be true to yourself.
Yes.
Because if you want to carry your baby around for sleep, go right ahead and carry your baby.
Yes.
But be kind to yourself. And that baby is not going to suddenly go from being carried
Yeah.
to being in a bed and sleeping for 12 hours.
Yeah, you've got to be realistic about
You
what that...
do.
And sometimes you're just doing the best you can with
And I
what
was
you've got.
speaking to a mum, and she had this beautiful 6-month-old, and she was struggling. She's going back to work in a couple of months, but she has cuddled and snuggled that baby. And the whole time she was talking to me about how she was going to get it to sleep in the cot, she was just looking with such loving eyes at this baby. And I just said to her, you are not ready to do this. You're saying the right things. You really probably want it to happen, but you're not in that space. So why don't you cuddle and snuggle her for a little bit more?
Yep.
And then apply something, or cuddle her till she's just sleepy, and then put her down and put your head beside her and pat her. So you're making that transition into the cot.
And I think for what I love, and I love that you shared that story, is that people think, especially with sleep, it's black and white. It's sleep training or not sleep training. It's really you're torturing your baby or you've got them.
And it's so black and white, and it's so
not
judged.
that. There's so much parenting in the grey, and I think with the stuff that you do, I love how, and not everyone can have this bespoke approach, but I love how you look at the family environment.
Yeah.
You look
at what's going on.
What's going on, what's happening to that particular person, and how, like you said, she wasn't ready.
She just
that.
wasn't ready.
Yeah, and you can't force someone because then they will regret it.
But not only that, I don't need to be all things to everybody.
Yes.
I am happy to support parents in what they need.
Yes.
And I'm also happy to say, you know what, this is a very difficult time. This child at the moment is very difficult.
Yes.
In terms of maybe a feeding issue
Yep.
or some sleep issue.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes.
You know, so let's take tiny little steps instead of great big giant steps.
Yes.
And let's just take tiny steps. And if you can get that baby to sleep for a bit longer, then you have done well.
Absolutely.
And that's the support that I hope I give. Sometimes I have to say, no, actually, you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think in a world where people
But there's ways of saying
GPT
that.
and you soften that. But there's
sometimes.
ways. I love your.
No,
I
you're
actually, you know what? I love it. I was like, Chris, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, because I had 3 under 3.5. I needed to know how I was building
juggle them
a
all.
business. How do I juggle them all? How do I make sure I do the best of getting all their needs met? And I can tell you, if I didn't have a plan and if I didn't have it written down and go,
It would be chaos.
it would have been chaos. I would have felt really overwhelmed, and instead I felt empowered because I knew that, okay, well, this child woke up at this time, so then I know I've got a good hour or two before they might get sleepy again, so then I could plan.
Yeah.
Or maybe this sleep I'm going to have at home, but actually that little slot's a good one to go out and about or go to the office, whatever it might be.
Creating that rhythmic pattern of behaviour
Yes.
helps you to organise the things that happen in your life.
Yes. The one thing I did do after meeting you, obviously, is that I did protect my kids' sleep at all costs.
Yeah.
And maybe I was a little bit more anxious about it in the beginning and then
And then
relaxed
you
a little.
found your way.
But I had no choice with the second.
Absolutely.
To put
You had 2
put
tiny
one
babies.
down. I remember you said, you're so practical, you said to me, because I have obviously 2 levels in the house, so I got one of those bassinets on wheels.
Yeah.
And so when I do bath time, I've got 3 kids, I would just have the little baby in there, we'd wheel down the hallway, next stop the bath, give bath time, next stop
the
down to the
bedroom.
next room, to the bedroom for wind down time. And I just kind of worked out really practical strategies on how to do that. But in any given moment, for me, it was putting my baby first because I wanted to protect their sleep at all costs.
Absolutely.
And if that meant I was missing out on this thing, or if that meant, because for me, I knew...
Because there was also a lot of other things that were going on around you
And
that you had to balance. That's where I think, we need to talk about the mental health part of it, because when we're trying to hit these markers that we put on how we are as a parent, then sometimes it's our mental health that suffers because we're trying to be all things to everyone. And the world tells us this. To be fair, I don't think it's the parents. The world tells you that you can, climb Kilimanjaro with a baby on your back and run, a corporate and still be the world's best parent at home. But something's got to give. Is you can't juggle it all.
Can't do it all.
One of my mums said to me very recently, she said, the reason I've put my child, this was the baby, into daycare 1 day a week, she said, is because I was so tired. I thought I might drop him or something. They were so going downstairs. She said, I just needed a day to get more sleep.
And how brave
And I said,
of her
that's
to
all
go,
right.
you know what?
That's good reason.
That baby will be fine.
That baby will be cared for and probably loved, and you will be better for that. So
Absolutely.
everyone's circumstances is really different, but we do have to be kind to ourselves, and we do need to understand that sleep is a developed pattern in a baby.
Yep.
It's not something they do naturally.
Yes.
You know, if you're waiting for them to naturally do it, it might be a while.
But not even that. I remember when, again, I think the first time around it was a very big thing that you would pay someone to come in for 3-4 nights and they would get your baby, or 2 nights, 3 nights, I can't remember. I never did it. But it was like you pay a lot of money, that person's going to come in, they're going to make your baby sleep, and then you think everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fine until the next,
the
increase
next
in an awake
development.
window or the next
Yeah.
development, and then those strategies need to be adapted. And it's not to make this feel really overwhelming and stressful for those that are going in it for the first time. That's not it at all. And I know you obviously have a book where you have this all mapped out, and it's one of the, we've got the app, obviously. We've got all of your amazing rhythms in the app, Chris, which honestly, someone even commented the other day, oh my God, it was my go-to when I had my baby, and it makes me feel so good hearing that.
They're just like frameworks. This is the information you need to know. This is an example of it. It might be slightly different if you had 2 children or 3 children, but it's a framework to say, actually, if my child meets that sleep need in the day and gets that many feeds, then I'm setting the child up to sleep better at night.
And when we say framework, it's developmentally what that time traditionally looks like.
Let's pick one of them. So let's pick, say, a 3-month-old.
Yep.
So a 3-month-old we know is more alert and more awake. You know, their little beady eyes are looking at you and you're patting and rocking for a long time. So we know at that stage they can stay awake a bit longer and more... They're better at staying awake. So that they can engage maybe with something on top of them. They can pat and, they can pull something down. So time frame is probably around an hour and a half. So what that means isn't that we're rigid at an hour and a half and pick it up. But that baby at an hour and 20 might suddenly get jerky and suddenly get whingy. That's the window for going to sleep.
That's the cue.
And if it's not the hour and a half, it's probably only going to be 5 minutes later. It's not going to be 2.5 hours later.
No. That's an overtired baby.
That's a very overtired, overstimulated. But what the hour and a half helps the parent to do is to start looking at the baby and see the subtle changes that occurs when a baby's calm and relaxed and actively engaged, so play. And then disengages because they're starting to get tired.
They even turn their heads.
So the first one is turn their head to the side, is disengaging. But a lot of people are waiting for whinging, yawning, eye rubbing, and that's too late. It's that subtle disengage. And where the parent, if you watch them, they're following the baby. So they keep talking to the baby and turning their head. And we're like, the baby's trying to disengage.
The baby's trying to tell you.
So if we grab them in the disengage, we're going to be calmer to accept the cues to go to sleep. So the into the room, the check or change of the nappy, the swaddle wrap sleeping bag, depending on age, the cuddle. Then you need to think of the environment. So our baby's still calm, and the calm is the cue. So it's like having an argument with your husband and then trying to go to bed.
You
can't do it.
So it's meeting them in that window of...
In that window where they're calm.
Calm but disengaged. So
but disengaged. So once we get to yawning, bright red face, red eyebrows, we're going to have to work much harder. We're going to work with that baby, and it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. So if we can get them in the calm, though, we're setting the cues up. So when we're in the calm, we can put their sleep bag on and chat to them. I even make them laugh. And the room is light and bright, and then I'm going to show them where they're going to bed. So I need to put them where they're going to go, bassinet, cot, wherever we're going, okay? That's when I change the environment. So I dim the room, and that says to the child, we're calming down. So at that point, you can either rock, cuddle. I put them down and I tend to start settling them in their bed. And then if that's not working for them, they're going to cry. So if they're going to cry, I'm going to pick them up, going to give them more comfort, going to put them back down again. So that transition all happens in that framework around the 3-month mark. So we talk about awake windows, what they might look like. Everyone's individual. Mine's around an hour and a half. They don't require as much sleep in the day as they did a month before. So sleep is changing. Sleep is defined by an hour and a half or more. A nap is our classic 40, 45 minutes. So this hour and a half, they need some sleeps in the day and they need some naps in the day. So things are changing, and that's when you're going to pick up your rhythm. prior to that, it's actually hard to do because they need a lot more sleep.
Yes.
So there's this pivotal window, and that's what these frameworks allow you to do, is just understand.
Have a guide.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about having
Absolutely.
access to you. I still ring
a
you
little
from time to
tweak.
time. Just a tweak,
A little
Emmy.
tweak.
Come on. And it's surprising what you forget the second and
Yeah.
third time around.
Well,
And
you're
they're all
busier.
different and busier. But what I loved, and I do want you to share this today, is the feed bath feed.
This is my first, what I call an anchor point.
Yeah.
So you can't routine children to an extent because they're not robots. They don't wake up at the same time. And we don't even do that. But you have windows and frameworks, right? And you have your wake windows. But what the babies do need is this, the same as us, this change of environment and what's going on around them that helps them to sleep at night. And in the young baby, we call this feed bath feed. And trust me, you could do this from 6 weeks, but it doesn't really work until they're 12 weeks old. So feed bath feed is an anchor at the end of the day. And babies often, regardless of how they're fed, so I'm just using the word feeding, they often will feed in a 2 to 2.5 hour period. So they might feed at 4 in the afternoon and then they want another feed at 6. And in the 6, you want that feed to be your biggest feed.
Yep.
So not overfeeding. So in terms of a breastfed, because it's easiest to explain that way, you would feed one breast, then go off and have a nice, warm, cozy bath. That would be the baby, not you. But you could have it with your baby. And then you change the environment. So we go into the softer room, it's much dimmer, soft lighting, and we're in night mode. So we feed the second part, but we don't feed them wrapped because I'll fall asleep too fast and I won't feed properly.
Yep.
So we feed the baby, but we're in a calmer, quieter environment.
Yep. And that's
then,
the signal. That's the cue.
Yeah, that's the cue. So it goes feed, bath, feed, but it's actually in a cluster. And then we've changed the cues for the babies so they start to sleep longer and longer from that point.
Right.
Now, if we're mix feeding, we might breastfeed, bath, bottle top up, depending on what
I did
it
that.
is.
I remember having to do that. I was too busy.
With another one.
Yeah.
And then if you're bottle feeding, it's a third of the bottle of bath and the bigger part of the bottle's at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we can do that in any way that we're feeding, and it's an anchor point. So now how many chaos the day is, we just get to the anchor point and we just keep doing it.
There's
and then
something
the
very
babies keep
rewarding.
sleeping and sleeping.
But that's the rewarding thing I found.
Yeah.
It was that in that haze and tiredness and overwhelm and, you know, maybe you've had a crazy day.
Yeah.
Once you hit that point.
Yeah, the
We've
babies
made
will go
it.
to sleep.
We've done this, you know.
And the people who want to go on holidays or go up and see mum for the weekend, they just come back to the anchor point.
Yeah, that anchor point for me, and I remember you also saying that sets the foundation as they get older because they come and have their dinner, then they have a bath,
and then they have a story, and
Yeah.
then they go to bed.
Yeah.
And your kids thrive on that.
Yes.
And if that's chaotic, they're chaotic.
Yeah, and it's never been an issue for me, and I think that's
No.
because I've set that bath time up to not be a time of resistance.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've used it
It's
as my
play.
moment. And look, and I'm saying this sounding like, oh, but there is actually a picture or video I can't remember, and I'm sitting there on my laptop.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 kids in the bath, and I've got the one beside me in her little rocking thing, and we're all there and we're all coping, we're managing, but it was that time together.
Yep.
It was routine.
Yep.
It was consistent rather. I shouldn't say routine. It was a consistent thing that we did, and
that's
they
right.
loved it. It was
That's
our
right.
time.
And remember, they're in busy worlds. When we
Yeah.
have parents who've gone back to work and those babies are off to daycare, that is like being in an open planned office.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much chaos going
Yes.
on around them. And then they get home and you have to create that downtime, that
Yep.
decompress.
I turn all the lights down. Maybe that's my
Yeah.
neurodiversity as well, but I can't handle the big overnight lights. I remember you saying.
we change our environment.
Change the lighting.
Yeah, change the lighting, calm the whole thing down.
Yeah.
And then you'll be surprised at how well they'll go to sleep from that point.
Oh, Chris.
Whether they're 6 weeks old or 6 years old.
Well, I certainly hope everyone could have you in their houses and rooms, and your advice is amazing. And obviously, there's so much we could have gone into today, but we have
absolutely.
But I'll have you back, and we would
thank you.
talk again. I'd love to dive deeper into feeding and all of that,
Yeah.
stuff that you talk to so well. And I just want to, again, like I do every time I see you, thank you for everything you've done for me, because my business
It's
wouldn't
been
exist.
a pleasure to watch you grow as a parent.
Thank you, Chris. Like, honestly, no, I feel so very lucky that our paths
Have
crossed,
crossed.
that we've become friends.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
you know, and it's just so nice to feel like you do have people in your corner letting you know
Yeah.
that, you know, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to get there.
You're going to get there.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time. I know
Pleasure.
you're actually off now to go and help a
Help
baby.
someone. Yeah, help a
somebody.
baby.
Help a baby with some
Maybe
sleep.
help himself go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. No, so many amazing tips. As we said, in the app are the rhythms. You've got your
Yep.
beautiful book, and we're always sharing lots of your amazing tips.
Oh, thank you very much
So
for
thanks,
having me.
Chris.
Pleasure.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.